Good day, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Playbook series. Now, just in case you're coming here for the first time, the purpose of this is to give everybody who is just starting out in design a fundamental understanding of what it is that they need to know. Now, like I keep saying it, the reason why you can't cook good food is because you don't know how. What we're trying to do in the course of this series is to show you the how, so that no matter the place you find yourself, no matter the day, the time, you will always know what to do to get the kind of results that you are looking for. So now let's jump straight into it. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking to you about design, what it is, and the evolution of design. Right? So we are in 2025 right now, and everybody is afraid of AI and what it is doing and all of that. But a proper understanding of where design is coming from and where it is right now will allow you to evolve efficiently, because the only constant thing in life is change. So let's start with what design is. Design is fundamentally visual communication. I like to say it like this. Let's assume everybody is deaf and they can't hear you. How can you show them something, and just by looking at it, you are able to convey an emotion and information to them in such a way that they understand it without further explanation? Let's get into the evolution of design and how we got to where we are in the design space. Now, design started fundamentally with cave paintings and what was also referred to as petroglyphs. Now, everybody should have seen this maybe in a very old movie where you see in tombs or stuffs like that, where they would probably carve images, and then there's these archaeologists who can read and understand weird symbols and images and all of that. Those were the first forms of graphic design. Why? Because by just visuals, you were able to communicate a message. How do people know that certain cultures had certain practices, even though these cultures have died over 100 years ago? Simply by looking at the cave paintings, the carvings, and the petrographs that they had at the time. So even if these people are not around to tell us how their practices were, just by looking at what they left behind, we get a better understanding of who they are and what it is that they do. One other very interesting thing about that era was that those designs were very simple and powerful, right? And the reason why it was simple was simply because they had to use the limited materials they had to communicate the information that they wanted to communicate. So they didn't really have advanced photo manipulation effects or stuff like that, or filters to add. They probably just had like a couple of colors, maybe red, that they'll get from mud. They had to ensure that they used the limited materials they had to produce a very good result. And one of the things that was symbolic at the time was that designs were very simple. Another interesting thing about that era was many of the cave paintings and petrographs were used as both purposeful, right? So they were also intended to communicate a certain message, and they were also very much spiritual. So it also gave us a peek into their religious and spiritual practices at the time. The next era was the Renaissance era, and this was when art started to blossom in this space, and then people started to represent themselves rather than with images, but with pictorial illustrations of themselves. And in this era, there was a lot of more expressive designs and more artistic forms, and very much more detailed because of how much time a particular person had to put into a single piece. And then towards the end of this era was when the printing press started to boom. Or the next era is the Industrial Revolution, and this was when technology now began to enter into the world more, and then we started to have technology that made it easy to replicate the things that we created. So technology like photography and lithography allowed us to create just one version of something and then mass produce it. So newspapers and books and all those kind of stuff started to boom just because of the Industrial Revolution. And this affected the way designs could come out, because now we're not necessarily limited by just doing one piece at a time. We can pour in all our energy into just one and then just mass produce it over a lot of other products. This era heavily influenced the style of designs that we saw, and majority of the designs that were done at the time were print related designs, so newspapers, brochures, just to sell a particular product that will eventually be printed in one shape or form. The next era was the modernist movement in the early 1900s. In this era, design started to become more simplistic and minimalist. Just let the information come out very clearly and everything is just put in the right place, just giving this very aesthetic vibe. So that was when a lot of the things that are influencing our designs now started to happen because of the printing period or era. A lot of things were happening. People were just putting colors all over designs. But this modernist era started to bring us to understand that we could do things simpler. We could use more geometric shapes to achieve what it is that we wanted to achieve. The next is the digital revolution. This was when design left print and started to become virtual. And one of the things that pioneered this movement was softwares like Photoshop, Illustrator, and CorelDRAW. Many of these softwares have evolved over the years. They looked far worse than this at the start. But right now, those were the softwares that allowed what was probably very difficult to do manually to now be done digitally. So just a very fun fact, right? When photo manipulation started as a thing, it was done manually. So people could cut out pictures and then merge them together, and then we probably reprint it so that it looks like, oh, everything belongs together in the same place. But with the advent of all of these softwares, things that people had to learn over years, they could just do it inside the software, do it from the comfort of their homes. So this heavily influenced the kind of designs we started putting out again, because now we are doing designs for screen and not for print. One other thing that you need to know in this era is print designs usually work with a CMYK color format. Virtual designs work with an RGB color format. Even in the way you think about the design, even in the way you put it together, you always have to be conscious of the fact that, okay, this is in a different space and this started influencing our designs differently. In this era, we now began to see the introduction of designs like web design, UI UX design, motion design. All these things never really existed for the digital age. And finally, where we are, the AI powered designs. In this era where we are, designs are heavily influenced by artificial intelligence. Now, as much as a lot of people are afraid of artificial intelligence and what it is capable of doing, it is very important to also understand that this is just part of the evolution. In a couple of years, we're going to see something different. And as long as you have a good understanding of everything we've said so far, including the era of artificial intelligence, it makes it much, much better and much, much easier for you to present yourself as a key player in this space. So if you've been alive or if you've been in the design space for longer, right, let's say from the digital era into artificial intelligence, you will notice that the design landscape has changed a lot. And what is going to keep you relevant is that you are actively evolving with this thing. AI is just another one of those evolutions. It's nothing too special, nothing too out of the box or out of the world for you to be afraid of, right? It's just one other evolution that came into this space. Or for example, when print designs were very popular and then people started doing digital designs, I'm sure it would have also been considered as a threat that, oh, digital designs are this, and people probably would have been dissing it and all of that. But right now, print designs are the most prominent. You start every design from digital and then move it to print. So it's the same thing with AI. And now in subsequent parts of this series, we'll talk about the artificial intelligence side of all of this so that you have a better understanding of what it is, how to use it, and how to get the results that you want to get. But I personally do not think that AI is going to take any designer's job. What I think it will do is it will greatly change the design landscape. So certain things that we were doing in a certain way before will have to evolve, but that designers will leave the space because of AI. I heavily doubt it. And I also think that one thing that is going to happen is that designers are now going to be paid for their creative skill and not their technical skill anymore. So you're not going to be paid because you can use a software. You're going to be paid because you can think creatively and come up with a creative solution. So right now, designers have an opportunity to become the best versions of themselves because you don't really need to have to worry about the technical side of what you're doing anymore. All you have to do is just focus on the creativity of it and allow all these platforms deal with the technicalities, and you just keep coming up with creative ideas. I genuinely believe that technology just brings down the learning curve, right? Or the standard, or like the limits that everybody has to like get to before they can do anything. So the big takeaway from all of this is design has been evolving and will continue to evolve, right? We're still looking forward to what AI is going to become in the next couple of years, or what new trend we're going to see. Right? I strongly believe that an understanding of everything that has happened so far allows you to position yourself as a key player in the industry because you understand that things are changing. You have to be a designer that is on your feet. You're not just going to sit down and say, this is how our ancestors did it. This is how my father's father did it. I am going to have to change. I'm going to have to evolve and move along with the industry as the industry is moving. Thanks for watching. In the next part of this series, we're going to be going over design elements. I'm ensuring that I'm not sticking to teaching you how to use a particular software in this course or in this series. I want you to know how designs are made so that no matter the place you find yourself, even if they take you back to the cave painting era, you still know what to do to give them very quality cave paintings. You get me? So if you found this very helpful, subscribe and let us know what you thought about it in the comment section. See you in the next video.